Welcome to the Truth Podcast. I'm your host, Hani Rambod, and it is Q&A time. I haven't done a Q&A in quite some time, so back by popular demand, Q&As that were taken off of YouTube or Instagram posts where we put up the little window and you guys filled in your questions. So I have a list of many of your questions here. I'm going to try to get to as many as possible, but let's go ahead and let's start off with the first question here. It's from Ben's Geo, and he's asking about when Evogen products are going to be available in India. Well, they are available now. That's the fortunate news. The unfortunate news, they're already sold out. So there are some retailers that still have a little bit of stock. We're waiting for the next run in India. So that is, it was very, very successful while I was out there and teaming up with KSM 66. I got to see the Ashwagandha manufacturing facility. So again, using the Ashwagandha, the KSM 66 in several of our formulas. And it's very exciting because we sold out all within a week. Now, like I said, there might be some stock with some of the vendors out there and some of the stores, but us personally, we have completely sold out and we're just waiting on the next run. So it's been a great launch for Evogen India. And let's go on to the next question. Actually, there was a sub-question. Did you use the same formulas as you do in the US and India? No, because regulatory does not allow us to use the same formulas. So we maximized what we could with the regulations that are given in India. So there are going to be variations to the formulas, just like there is in Europe. Europe does not allow Yohimbe, so we use Yohimbe in the United States. Same thing with most countries around the world, but I use it in our fat burners in the US. I use it in the EVP Extreme NO as well. I'm a big fan of Yohimbe, but unfortunately it is not allowed in a lot of other countries. So those variants that I do create those formulas for do not contain Yohimbe. So again, that is one of the few products that do have to have some changes in the formulation so that it complies with the local laws. So, but most of them are very, very similar. I would say about 90% of the formula is intact, but those certain ingredients that are not allowed are not going to be in those markets. So, but it's a good question, Ben's Geo. Now on to the next question. Brianna is asking, any specific subs a natural athlete should take? Yes, for sure. The number one supplement, again, around the world, the most studied supplement, creatine. I feel like creatine monohydrate is the king. I prefer the creatine monohydrate micronized. That's the one that I use for Evogen. I use a very high spec so that it has not only the highest quality, but there's none of that astringent taste. Sometimes with some creatines that are inferior, they're going to smell ammonia-like. They'll have these different really off-putting smells to them. If yours does have that, then obviously do not take it. Try a different brand, but I really try to make sure that every single spec of every ingredient that we do, we try to find the utmost quality, and creatine is no different. We need to make sure that we use micronized, number one, and we want to make sure that we're using a super high quality. I mean, if your creatine is yellow and it's just pure monohydrate and it's unflavored, then you have an issue. If it has a weird smell to it, you have an issue. So I would definitely change it. If you want to go ahead and try Evogens, by all means, I 100% money back guarantee all of our products. But also, I really want to make sure that you understand that as a natural lifter, any lifter, whether you're taking HRT, whether you're enhanced, whether you're natural, creatine, even the studies for women, cognition, studies with younger children, even that are playing basketball. There was a basketball study that was done and they got better performance, better output with taking creatine. And these kids, I believe, were like 15, 16 years old. And again, more and more positive research is being shown on creatine. So do not sleep on your creatine mono. Number two, protein. Make sure you're getting enough protein. Many of us do not have enough time to get all the meals in, but you need to get your protein. I always recommend 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So again, if you're 150 pounds, 150 grams of protein. If you're 200 pounds, 200 grams of protein. The only time where I like to bring that down a bit is if you are very, very heavy and your body fat is very high, then you can be a little bit lower because of the fact that you have a bit less lean muscle mass and you have just more higher amounts of body fat. But for the most part, if you can try to stick to that goal and try to shoot for that 1 gram per pound, it's a great formula. And many of us just don't have the time to get that chicken breast in, to get that lean steak, or to get some fish or egg whites. So what I do is try to do 1 to 2 shakes a day just to be able to enhance my protein levels and to be able to augment the diet. Again, that's why they're called supplements, not to fully replace them and have nothing but whey protein shakes all day long. I don't recommend that, but being able to add in 1 or 2, especially at those key critical times, maybe post-workout would be one, and another one would be at night, especially if you're craving something that's sweet and you want to be able to put something together. I made Isagex to taste like amazing flavors, but also taste really good with just water. So if you are trying to be on a really low calorie diet, it's really good because not only does it digest well, but it also tastes delicious. So those are the key points. Some will also add it to oatmeal or cream of rice in the morning to be able to enhance the protein levels of that breakfast. That also helps, especially coming off of a fast from sleeping all night. So again, those are the times that I would really be able to add in like a whey protein, especially I'm a huge believer in whey protein isolate. So those are the 2, what I call bookend items, where we have the creatine and you have the protein. But also if I had to go into the third product, a pre-workout. Whether it's stim-based or non-stim-based, it's up to you, depending on if you are a person that likes to reach for that cup of coffee in the morning or somebody that just loves caffeine, then stim-based is okay as long as you don't overdo it. Because again, I started Evogen 18 years ago with a non-stim pre-workout, which is now called EVP3D. So I do believe in moderation, not to go too crazy. So 200 milligrams to 300 milligrams a day. Some people can handle a little bit more, but just remember it does dehydrate you the higher you go, and you can have more vasoconstriction, especially if you're using stimulants like back in the day when they were using DMAA, and a lot of products did. Again, people were getting zero pump out of it. So if you're using some kind of crazy pre-workout that has a ton of stimulants in them and you're wondering why you're not getting a sick pump, it's because you're getting vasoconstriction, because you're getting jacked in terms of energy, but you're not getting jacked in terms of muscles being fuller. And you want to be able to create that amazing pump to get that oxygen-rich blood into the muscle. So that's why it's always a balanced effect. So either go non-stim if you're sensitive to caffeine or you're training at night, or use stimulants, but in moderation when you do use a stimulant-based pre-workout. And to round that off, the last thing, last but not least, glycerol. I really, really believe a glycerol solution, very, very important for hyperhydration, because you're pulling so much of that liquid and hyperhydrating into the muscle that not only does it give you a crazy pump to work in synergy with a powdered pre-workout, like a nitric oxide booster, but you're also going to end up having hyperhydration, which I call muscle fullness, right? When you hyperhydrate that muscle and it gets swollen and it stays for hours even after the workout, that's what we call muscle fullness. So that's going to give you that round 3D effect even after you leave the gym. So really try to focus on being able to drink plenty of water, because if you are dehydrated, none of those products will work. So make sure you drink plenty of water a day. We always try to shoot for about 100 ounces, but you'll end up having a little bit lighter in certain days and then maybe a little bit more in other days, especially if it's really hot and you're sweating a lot or you're doing a lot of cardio. You may go up from there, but even on the days that if you hit 70 or 80 ounces, but you're trying to shoot for the 100, you'll be okay as long as you're not feeling those dry lips or that really crazy, like parched feeling. So make sure that you stay on top of your hydration and your water levels. Again, guys, thank you guys so much for all these amazing questions. Let's go on to the next question from Noah. Noah Sharp's asking, tips for someone wanting to get into bodybuilding coaching. Very good question. If you're looking to get into bodybuilding coaching, try to really figure out your genre, right? I wouldn't try to do a focus on every single division. I would try to stick to a couple different divisions and then be able to really consolidate. And what I mean by that is that if you want to work with open and classic, or if you want to do men's physique and classic, or if you want to work with women and you want to do figure or bikini, try to focus on those things that you're most passionate about and try not to be everything to everyone, because it's really, really difficult to go from men's open to fit model. So again, it's not impossible. And I have worked with a lot of different divisions, but I recommend, especially starting off, really try to dig deep into the ones that you feel most passionate about, the types of athletes you like to work with, the ones that you can also maybe coach in person with their posing, ones that you can also possibly train in person as well to help with their training. And dig deep and don't try to be jack of all trades, master of none. Really focus on the ones that you are most passionate about. That's my advice for you. All right, let's go on to the next question from Spencer. Tips for cardio training, what to pay attention to and what helps keep fatigue minimal. So when you're trying to focus on cardio, you're either trying to build up your cardiovascular system or you're trying to do cardio to stay lean or get lean. So if you're trying to get lean, I really focus on making sure that you go in fasted. I'm a huge, huge believer in fasted cardio, first thing in the morning, getting up in the morning and doing your cardio, rolling out of bed and possibly taking something like a carnitine base or a carnitine with a possible fat burner. We call them fat burners, but it's really a thermogenic to be able to get you out of bed focused, gives you a little bit of energy, gives you a little bit of thermogenesis so you can be able to help you sweat, help you focus, and get on that cardio. It could be a treadmill, it could be a step mill, it could be going outside. Those are things that I really recommend for going into a fat burning program. Now, again, obviously you still need your diet, goes without saying, but that fasted cardio. If you're looking just to try to maintain, leaner amounts of body weight and body fat, then doing post-workout is fine. 15, 20 minutes post-workout. Now, going in and doing heavy amounts of cardio and really wanting to build up your endurance is going to make sure that you're going to have to really make sure you're hydrated. So again, water levels and then making sure that you're taking your electrolytes, very, very important, but also making sure that you have the right amounts of carbohydrates. Now, could you be on keto or low carb and still be able to do cardio? Absolutely. But I've noticed when it comes to performance, a balanced diet of protein and carbohydrates always had my athletes perform much, much better than ketogenic diets, especially when it comes to endurance. So again, some people might might have a different opinion to that, but I'm mostly in the bodybuilding space, not in the going out and trying to be a better runner or try to be a better cyclist space. But my personal opinion is that carbohydrates are really, really important when you start getting into endurance. But I'm sure there's going to be people out there that are going to have a different opinion. But when it comes to fat burning, I like fasted cardio. So again, that tip for me is get up in the morning. I love L-carnitine based products, whether it's a liquid, whether it's a powder, and then adding in a thermogenic fat burner, and then obviously cycling on and off of that because you don't want to stay on that because you'll get diminished returns when you're on thermos for too long. So again, about 6 weeks, 4 weeks, or up to 8 weeks, if you're in the middle of a prep on a thermogenic is okay, but you do not want to sit there and do those all the time because you're going to get diminished return. So again, I hope you answered your question. I hope I answered your question, Spencer. So enjoy the cardio. All right, now on to the next question. Vitten Triple V. How do you balance high intensity FST7 sets with CNS recovery to prevent neural burnout? Okay, so to prevent any burnout using something, whether it's high intensity, whether it's FST7 sets, what's really, really important is for you to listen to your body. Normally, a natural athlete is going to be able to train maybe once or twice a week doing heavy intense FST7 sets. Obviously, your recovery is much more if you're enhanced or if you're really on top of your sleep and you're a natural athlete than somebody who is a natural athlete that doesn't sleep well, who doesn't get all their protein in, who doesn't have any active recovery techniques. You're going to have a problem with recovery. So your body is going to take longer to be able to get back in the gym, and you're going to have longer amounts of soreness, right? You're going to be sore for 3, 4, 5 days sometimes, where someone else is going to be sore for 1 to 2 days, especially if it's somebody's enhanced. But what you're going to have to do is listen to your body. If you are sore, do not go in there and hammer the same body part again. You can do a light workout. If you're sore in the chest and it's 3 days later and you want to do a light workout, you can. But again, I always recommend to try to make sure that you totally recover before you go into the next high intensity workout. So listen to your body and make sure that you don't overcook your workouts. Because if you are completely annihilated in your sore for 7 or 8 days after training legs, then back off by 20%. Try to increase your recovery and make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's when it comes to food, hydration, and sleep so that you can be able to maximize recovery. So other techniques can be taking essential amino acids in between meals, also making sure that you're just hitting just a little bit extra protein. If 1 gram per pound of body weight is working well, then great. But if you feel like you can bump it up to 1.25 grams, then that might help as well. So you may have to do a little bit of experimenting to be able to maximize your recovery, but make sure you're checking all of your boxes. If you are getting all of your diet dialed in, supplements dialed in, but you're getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep, well, that will be the missing link. So again, do not end up sleeping on sleep. All right, the next question from Dennison. Did you have clients who worked a normal job and then went to the gym? Well, I think what you're asking is, do they have regular jobs and compete? Because many people go to the gym that have regular jobs, right? They'll either go in the evening or they'll go in the morning. Some of them have the luxury of being able to train during the day, which is great. But ultimately, do people who compete or compete at a high level end up having day jobs? There are some. Ronnie Coleman is a great example. He was a police officer for several years at the Arlington Police Department and won a couple of Mr. Olympias before he ended up basically stepping away from being a police officer and being full-time Mr. Olympia because of all of his sponsorship requirements and what he had to do to compete, travel around the world, and be able to be an ambassador for the sport. So most that are at a higher level can be able to do it full-time, especially nowadays when you have sponsors or you're an influencer of some sort while you're competing. Most people, that is their job, but you can be a computer programmer, you can be a teacher, you can end up becoming a police officer or a fireman and still compete. Yes, and many of them are also entrepreneurs or personal trainers. They have their own businesses and they still compete. So yes, you can do both, but when you do go to the highest level, do more people tend to focus on just that and their sponsorships? Yes, 90+% of those that are out there that are in the top 10 at the Olympia, I would say, or even top 30, in the world, tend to have their primary job of being a competitor, influencer, and someone that is an entrepreneur of some sorts. So they may have their own business or their own personal training app or their own training programs that are out there and also compete full time. So hopefully that answered your question. Next question is from Darylyn M6. If you do drive an M6, it's a great car. But how can I become an Evogen athlete? How you can be an Evogen athlete? What we do is we take applications at the Evogen Nutrition website. To get more information, all you do is head on over there. Obviously, don't just try to be an ambassador because you think it's cool. Be a part of a company that you really believe in. It's all about the culture, and the culture only gets better when people have buy-in and they really believe in the culture, the people, and the products. So again, only try to align yourself with brands that you believe in. Otherwise, it just comes across as disingenuous, and it's not going to be good for you, and it's not going to be good for the brand that you're trying to be a part of. So again, if you are an Evogen fan and you are interested in becoming an athlete, head over to evogennutrition.com and you can click on the tab to be able to apply. But again, only if you have passion and you really believe in it. Next question from We Live Big, Love Bigger. So her question is, what's the best Evogen appetite suppressant that isn't going to make me sweat? ? Your fiber. So you can use different mechanisms to be able to cut back your appetite. If you're talking about a stimulant, stimulants will make you sweat, but depending on what ingredients they're combined with. EvoBurn is the one that makes you sweat the most because of the GBB, the MitoBurn, the Yohimbe, the caffeine, they all work in synergy. So that one is going to make you sweat the most. The one beneath that would be the EvoBurn caffeine-free, because the caffeine-free, Yohimbe-free version is no caffeine, no Yohimbe, so it's not as intense, but it still makes you sweat because of the MitoBurn and the GBB. So that would be a step below. Now, if you want to come down another notch, Another thing you could turn around and do is take Liposide. Liposide does not make you sweat as much as the EvoBurn family because it doesn't contain mitoburn or GBB. So, but it still does contain caffeine and it does contain yohimbe. So some people really, really like one versus the other. They like to be able to sweat. Others like the appetite suppression of Liposide IR. It comes in both capsule as well as the powder form. And if you're looking for just a supplement that is going to keep you full because you are just hungry all the time because you're dieting, then yes, the fiber that you mentioned is great. So adding fiber to your diet really helps, not only with bowel movements, but it helps you with feeling full. So taking 1 to 2 scoops, 10 to 20 grams a day, you can take it up to twice a day and not have any issues. Comes in amazing flavors, and it's also naturally sweetened. And we also have an unflavored version as well if you wanted to add it to a protein powder or any of your other drinks or a hydration product even. So again, the way that I be able to break that down hopefully helps you with your question. I really appreciate all the questions that you had to ask because you have about 24 questions in here or more. Next question is from Jay Nexty. Glute training for men. Should you do it? Yes, absolutely. No matter your age, you want to be able to train your glutes. Now, as you get older, you tend to lose your glutes faster, and we call that old man ass. It happens all the time. People tend to lose their glutes because they're not able to squat because of their knees, because they lack mobility and flexibility. So it's really, really important that you do glute training, especially as you get older. Now, what things do I recommend? Abduction is really, really good. If you have a kickback machine, it works great. If you do not have a kickback machine, even doing step-ups on a D-handle low cable is great. You can put a bench right in front of the low cable with a D-handle and do step-ups. That works tremendously well. And it doesn't affect your knees nearly as much as if you had to sit down and get deep into the hole when it goes into those squats that you're trying to do. When you're younger, people, obviously squats are the king. They work great. Get really deep, be able to really explode up, and your glutes will fire. But when you get older and you have issues, whether it's in your hips or your knees, and you just feel like squatting is just diminished returns, really try to focus on being able to do more mind-muscle connection exercises with the glutes. So all those that I just mentioned, whether it's a kickback, step up, abduction, any of those, some people even really do well, even the guys, on being able to do glute bridges. So again, take a page out of the women's workouts, and they do an amazing job to focus on those glutes. It's really important, especially as you get older, into your 40s and 50s, to be able to also continue to focus on the glutes. So yes, glute training is important even for you guys. And our final question is about KSM 66. A lot of people know that I am a huge advocate to KSM 66, so I'll try to be as thorough as possible. But the question is, why KSM 66 over other ashwagandhas? So again, ashwagandha root has a lot of benefits, but the root is the purest form. It has the least amount of impurities, and it is considered the gold standard when it comes to ashwagandha, and that's what KSM 66 uses. So I've been formulating with KSM 66 for over 6 years with EvoBoost to help with increasing testosterone, also free test levels. So it works tremendously well. But now with more studies coming out with reduction in cortisol or helping with stress and sleep, all of these things have been such a great fact-finding mission for me that I started formulating more products with KSM 66. So again, the new CellChem has a full dose, 600 milligrams of KSM 66, as well as the new 600 milligram capsules. So when I am putting together a program for an athlete, I tend to go up to 1200 milligrams at the max phase, but 600 obviously is the minimum. You will see some products out there that have 200 or 300 milligrams. Not that those don't work, but 600 milligrams is the clinical dose of KSM 66 ashwagandha to be able to get the full effect. But some do feel a little bit better to go up to 1200 milligrams, especially when you're taking a standalone capsule before bed. So again, I've been using it now for 6, going almost on 7 years, And I've been utilizing it now for the cell chem, which also has essential amino acids as well as creatine and creatine nitrate to help with recovery post-workout. And then the standalone that I just mentioned. So again, the gold standard is KSM 66. There's a lot of ashwagandhas out there. They use the root, but then they mix it with the inferior parts of the plant, which is the leaf and the stems. KSM 66 is just the root. So when I got a chance to go out there and tour the KSM 66 factory where they were processing all of the bags of ashwagandha, when I got to open that up, it was just purely the root. And that's what I end up utilizing when they pulverize it and then they cleanse it and then they create the raw material that we can use in the formulations we do at Evogen. So again, very, very good product. Love the outcome. I love how it makes you feel, but also it has many different uses. So if you haven't had a chance to try it, go ahead and give that a try and let me know what other questions you guys want me to answer on the next Q&A. Appreciate you all. Peace.